So, since every single MLS team this week decided to wear a black and white kind of kit for every single of their match week games in honor of Earth Day, I kind of did the same thing too with wearing the old 2015 USA black kind of kit. This is actually a replica kit, that is. Unfortunately, this one is not made out of recycled material like the one that every single MLS team has wear this week, but it still is. And I could have probably chose my Quakes gear as the one to wear as kind of like a black kit, although I think that one, I'm still currently washing that one, and I unfortunately just don't have any white kit in my any white kind of MOS appeal that I have in my wardrobe. But either way, let's get into this week game, and my oh my, it was a crazy week. There was a lot of goals scored this week. There was a lot of red card handed out. There was a lot of controversial moments. I mean, that's how I really wish MLS would be like this every single week, because that would be a dream. Like, this would be probably the best league in the world if this was kind of what it is for every single week. But yeah, let's actually talk about these games, and we're going to start with one that I already talked about. I already did a single video about this one, and I know I said in that single video that I wasn't going to talk about this one again, but I just kind of want to mention a little bit more about this game and how, first of all, this was a kind of a historic win for Sporting KC, because this is the biggest winning margin that they ever had at home. And for Vancouver, I think this is the biggest loss they have ever away. And yeah, it was just men's against boys in this game. It was so one-sided, and even before the red card, it was also one-sided too. I mean, Vancouver just did not know what to do in terms of trying to deal with a very furious kind of Sporting KC attack. And in some way, this was also the Johnny Russell show, especially in the first half. He scored 2 goals in the first half and then got his hat trick in the 48th minute. And then, of course, a couple of supporting cast, Lobato, Corzette with a goal, and Madrona obviously scored probably one of the best, if not the best goal of this week, and certainly be a nomination for goal of the week. And yeah, overall, it was just an absolute demolition job. And for Vancouver, this is now 3 straight loss. There has to be serious concern right now. And it feels like with this team, and with the fact that if they do not have Lkae Kamara on this team is just doomed. This team is just literally a team that is definitely not a playoff team, and definitely look like a very predictable one-dimensional team. And they desperately want Lkae Kamara back, because if he's back, I think at least he would be pretty much like the plan B for Vancouver, and he would be a guy that certainly can score those goals for this Whitecaps team. But without him, you can see how big of an impact it has been for the Whitecaps. And speaking of impact, no pun intended, the Montreal Impact lost 5-3 against LAFC in probably the most exciting game of this week game. Well, I would say that maybe this one is also very kind of exciting, and I will get to this one just in a bit. But yeah, the Impact lose 5-3 against LAFC. They were up 3-1 in this game. They were up 3-1 at halftime, but 4 unanswered goals by LAFC pretty much has completely turned this game on its head. And Montreal did also had a man send off in this game. Cabrera got sent off in the 30th minute, and it's a bit of a controversial send off, because some people think that it wasn't a red card, even though that when you look at the incident when Cabrera kind of clipped Orania in the box, Orania looked like he was through on goal and basically could potentially score one, and that looked like a clear denial of goal score opportunity. But some Impact fans think that even though it kind of looks like it, there wasn't really like a lot of contact. But still, in my opinion, I think the red card is justified. I still think that looked like denial of goal score opportunity, and I think if it made Impact fans a little bit kind of more happier, I thought Tyler Miller should have been sent off in this game too, because I didn't even put this with Piatti, who scored a hat trick in this game too, but unfortunately that's probably one of the few hat tricks in a game where it just gets forgotten because of what the other team does. But, Piatti, of course, scored a penalty in the 9th minute, and basically he draw a foul off of Tyler Miller, and, I know that some LAFC fans say that Piatti basically just kind of like dived in that instant, but I kind of feel like when Miller was kind of like trying to get the ball, he didn't even quite get the ball at all, and, Piatti, in some way, he kind of did try to jump over Tyler Miller there and basically went down and stuff like that. But if you look at it in pretty much in real time, that looked like that Piatti was going through on goal, and that probably could have been another denial of goal score opportunity, and that probably could have been a red card. I mean, if you're going to give a red card for a denial of goal score opportunity on one end, then you might as well just give it to Tyler Miller too, because that looked like a denial of goal score opportunity. And again, even though it looked like Piatti kind of dived there, I still think that, that just looks like a denial of goal score opportunity there. And Miller, of course, got a yellow card in this. But really, the second half, it was always going to be tough for Montreal to try to hold on in this game. I mean, even up 3-1, I just have a feeling that LAFC was going to come back and really just relentlessly attack on this Montreal team. And indeed, they did. Fell Harbor, Rutella with an own goal. Vela with a penalty kick. That was no doubt a penalty. And then he converted it. And then Blessing basically added an insurance goal for LAFC. And also, Lauren Simmons also scored a goal against his old club. And yeah, LAFC continue to do what they do in the beginning of the season, which is win. And it's been just such an impressive feat of what LAFC has done in this season alone. I mean, that's now 4 wins out of 6 on the road, and for a league that is always tends to be very hard to win on the road. I mean, I said it many times, it's always tends to be, whenever you go on the road, you always tend to find it hard to get a win, and you usually just go for a draw. Well, LAFC has other ideas. LAFC just decided to treat their road kind of game like they're at home at Bank of California Stadium. And now that since they got so many wins on the road, and it's yet to determine whether or not if they're going to be very good at home, but the form that they're in, probably they're going to be very good at home. And, if they can continue this form, and if they just somehow stay injury-free for the next couple of weeks and pretty much throughout the season, I think this team could be favorites of potentially winning the MLS Cup. And this is not a joke too. This team is actually that good. This team is just right up there alongside with Sporting KC. And the only thing I have concern with LAFC is that when injury hits, that is when it can get a little bit kind of unraveling for them, because they have been relying on a couple of guys like Vela and Rossi to try to carry their team in this game. Although this one was pretty much a complete performance by the team, because you got 5 different goal scorer for LAFC, and Diego Rossi didn't even get on the score sheet on this one. But yeah, next up, Houston winning 5-1 against TFC2. And notice how I put TFC2, because that basically was the team that Toronto feel. I mean, it was basically a TFC2 team. It was a bunch of reserve, bunch of no-name kind of guys. And Houston, of course, completely destroyed them, as they should be. Goals from Menottes, Leandro, Alexander, Elise, and Kyoto. And the only goal for TFC2, Tianto or something like that. But yeah, Houston, they got the job done. This is exactly a a result that they've been desperately need. I mean, they have been winless ever since they beat Atlanta 4-0 in the first week of the season, and it's just been a very kind of struggling and murky kind of run that Houston has had. But they got lucky that they're playing against a kind of TFC2 team, which, by the way, I actually searched on the USL standings, and I actually found out that TFC2 is actually near the bottom of the table in terms of the USL. So it's no wonder why TFC2 is a very bad team, because if you are a team that can't even compete and are probably one of the worst team in USL, yeah, you probably will have no chance when you actually play an actual USL opponent. And TFC2 team kind of find out in this matchup. And for Houston, obviously the other good news is that they got 3 of their attackers score in this game. Manotes, Elise, and Kyoto, all 3 of them score. So that's certainly good news. That definitely gives you some confidence to those attacker up front. And it's going to be interesting to see if Houston can build on this. And for TFC, obviously they better win that CCL final on Tuesday, because if they don't win that, not only it's an absolute disaster for MLS, but it's also the fact that all this time they've been sacrificing points just to focus on that competition, and then they came up short. Yeah, that is gonna be a big blow. So please, TFC, do not let us down on Tuesday or Wednesday. I actually don't know which day is it. It's either Tuesday or Wednesday where that CCL final is going to be happening at Guadalajara. But yeah, next up, the Red Bulls. Wow, this was a surprising result. They lose 2-1 to Chicago at home. Goals from Lkae, which, my oh my, this Lkae goal probably might be the one that's going to win the goal of the week. I mean, I know I said that, the goal that Madronda scored potentially could be the candidate for goal of the week, but the goal that Alexander Lkae scored, he basically hit it on the volley, and he basically hit it on a top right corner. I mean, that ball was so hit. Well, that ball was hit so well that the net I don't know how the back of the net did not broke at all, because it was just hit with so much pace. It was hit with so much power. And yeah, Chicago, of course, were up 1-0 at that point. They got another goals from Nikolic, and BWT, of course, scored the only goal for the Red Bulls. And yeah, I definitely did not expect this. I didn't think that Chicago, which coming into this game, I thought they were doom and gloom. I thought Chicago was just, this team in terms of their last couple of games have just not looked good at all. And I think the reason why they won this game wasn't because of spectacular goal that they scored in this game, but it was because of their goalkeeper. The goalkeeper, Richard Sanchez, there's been a lot of kind of critics and a lot of kind of Fire fan that said that he is clearly not good enough to be a goalkeeper for Chicago. And I kind of agree, because he hasn't looked very decent in the first couple of games this season. But in this game, he was probably the man of the match in this game. He was making some very key saves in this game for the Fire, and he is pretty much the reason why the Fire was able to walk out of Red Bull Arena with all 3 points. And as for the Red Bulls, this has to be a frustrating result. I mean, everything in this match, everything that says in this match is always going to be a Red Bulls win, because the Red Bull were at home, they were playing a struggling Chicago team, and they were just on fire at home. There was just no doubt. But the problem for them in this game has been clinical finishing. And there's been a couple of times the Red Bulls have had problems with clinical finishing. And there's also been a couple of times where the Red Bulls are only relying on BWP to score the goal. Like, seriously, this Red Bulls team, the more I look at it, the more I feel like the only guy that can really score for them is BWP. And once you shut down Bradley Wright Phillips, it's a guessing game of who exactly is going to step up for the Red Bulls. And so far this season, that has been a question that hasn't been answered. And as long as they don't answer that question, that could be a bit of a problem for the Red Bulls going forward. But yeah, next up, so I talk about how this game was probably the most exciting game. Well, this one was also the most exciting game of this week. And I think maybe this one is the most exciting game in terms of actually being very fair and just no kind of red card that potentially can ruin this game. Because I think this game was in some way kind of ruined by that red card. And, LAFC was able to do that comeback. Although, take nothing away from what LAFC did in that second half. It was still very impressive considering the fact that they were 3-1 down and they had to score 3 goals to get the win and to equalize, and they were playing on the road. But this was an absolute bomb burner. I mean, both teams were literally going for it. Both teams had so many chances to potentially get a winner. The first half was an absolute firecracker. It all started with Farrell getting an own goal, and Columbus, of course, took the lead, and then Bonbury basically equalized for the Revs. Zardes, of course, retake the lead for Columbus, and Jarzy Zardes, the more that he has scored, the more that he's making me look like a guy that has just what I said in the preseason and how he wasn't good enough anymore. Yeah, it start to get to a point where I kind of have to put a sincere apology to Jarzy Zardes of how I call out on him and say that he was not good enough anymore, when now all of a sudden with Columbus he is just discovering his old form that he used to have with the Galaxy a couple of years ago. And just as Columbus thought that they were gonna get out of halftime with a 2-1 lead, Penela once again scored for the Revs, and it ended 2-2 at halftime. And then in the second half, I don't know how in the world did the second half there was not a goal, because once again both teams was going for it. There was chance left right for both of these teams, but in the end it does end honors even, and I'm pretty sure the Revs will be much more the happier side out of this affair, because they got a hard fought draw at home. Some Revs fan would say that they probably should have won that game because they had the chances to win, but at the same time they could have easily lost that game too, because Columbus also had those chances. And for the Revs, it is just amazing how they are just getting to this kind of start of the season and how they're still maintaining it. Like, I thought after when they drew against NYCFC back, I think from week number 2 or 3, I think it was match week number 3, I thought that, okay, yeah, that was just a one-off. That was when they didn't have the likes of Villa and also Rodney Wallace on that team, basically missing a couple of key guys in that NYCFC match. I thought that was just a one-off, and also the fact that they were at home. But ever since, they have got a win against Houston. They also got a win against Montreal. They have got themselves all the way up in the top 4 of the Eastern Conference, and it's been an incredible start. And consider this team, if you look at the beginning of the season and you look at the squad, nobody would have thought that squad would just be what the Revs would be right now. I mean, in many ways, a lot of the guys on that squad is overachieving a lot, and it's going to be interesting to see if they can keep this up. And for Columbus, obviously they snap out of the 3-game losing streak, but at the same time it must be frustrating the fact that they still cannot put those opportunities away. Like, there's been just so many opportunities for Columbus, and they also hit the bar I think once in this game. I mean, that's 8 times now this season that they have hit the bar, so they have been very unlucky this season. That is Columbus, but hopefully since now they have scored 2 goals and how guys like Jerzy Zardes finally getting a goal, maybe that will bring his confidence. Maybe that brings the Columbus attack a little bit together now, and maybe they of course will finally get some result in these next couple of games. Next up, Dallas with a 2-0 win over Philly goes for Mauro Diaz with the penalty and Maxio Ruti with the goal in the 74th minute. And, for Dallas, this is a job done for them. This is exactly what they really needed. I mean, I said it in the preview. They have to win this one. Consider the murderous stretch they have after this game, where they have to play NYCFC next. And then I know that they have to play the 2 LA team, and they have to play them twice. And they also have to play against TFC too. So it is just an absolute murderous road that they have to go through. And, like I said, they got the job done against Philly. And in some ways, maybe Dallas could have had a couple of more goals. I mean, the first half, their finishing was just, it was god-awful. But fortunately, in the second half, it got a little bit better. And it's good, certainly it's good news for Dallas fan to see Mauro Diaz and Ruti scoring goals, because those are the two guys that you're probably going to be relying on a lot to trying to score the goal, alongside with Roland Lamar and potentially Christian Coman. And as for the Union, my sincere condolence to your team, because this has to be depressing to see this Union team game after game just not only getting completely outplayed by the other opponent, but it just feels like this team is stopped trying. Like, this team doesn't even care anymore. And when you see that kind of productivity on the pitch, it must be infuriating as a Union fan. It's no wonder why the Union fan wants the manager out, and also they want to have a new owner, because it has been depressing to be a Union fan this season, and it has been depressing to be a Union fan for the last couple of years. I don't remember a year, I think maybe a couple of years ago, when they just barely made it to the playoffs, that the Union actually had a good season. It has just been, this is probably one of the most depressing kind of franchise that they ever had since they came in the league in 2008. And I think they're probably even more depressing than my San Jose Earthquakes, who came back into the league in 2008, because at least we got a supporter shield. Philly, they have only tasted, I think, playoff once in that time, and they literally just got out during that time. They lost in the first round. So it has been a depressing time for Philly in terms of their time in MLS, and certainly for this season too. Speaking of my Quakes team, well, if it makes you feel a little bit better, Union fans, my Quakes is also under a very depressing kind of state. And the depressing kind of state that the Quakes are under is the defense. I mean, oh my goodness, the defense, for probably the 4th time or maybe the 5th time this season, it has let us down again. And honestly, I don't understand why. First of all, I don't understand why in the world did we decide to put Salinas in this game. Like, did you not see how Salinas has been just absolutely horrendous whenever he goes into that left back row? And the other thing that I'm kind of scratching my head is the fact that how in the world did we literally just get tore apart time after time on transition in the first half, and just time and time again giving the ball away in bad position in the second half. I mean, don't let the score kind of fool you that this is a close game. This was an absolute blowout, and if it wasn't for Youngworth that somehow just give us a little bit of life in the second half, this game would have been easily, Orlando City probably should have scored 5 in this game. That is how bad our defense is right now, and we got to do something about it. And one thing that I think we have to do is that either we go back to the 3 at the back system or go 5 at the back system, like what we did when we played against Philly on the road, or just completely blow up the defense and start over, because this defense is just clearly not good enough. It is an absolute shambles. And, for Orlando City, obviously, congratulations with the win. That's now 4 in a row for Orlando City. And, Jason Kreis must be he must be having a party now, because a couple of weeks ago, he was on a very kind of hot seat. But now, 4 wins on the bounce, and he's probably kind of like having a very good kind of... He's kind of having a very good party right now, and just kind of like sit back and relax and watch the team just keep racking up wins. But still, I think the only thing I will also say about Orlando City is that the defense is still a little bit kind of vulnerable, because there were times that the Quakes did have chances to try to score a goal in this. In fact, I think they should have at least scored 1 goal in the first half, because I thought the first half we had so many numerous chances to score and just once again squandered away. But other than that, this Orlando City team is just, who knew that when you get everybody back on the squad, that this team can literally be one of the best team in the league. And that is exactly what Orlando City is looking like right now. But yeah, next up, the Rocky Mountain Derby, or as they call it, the Rocky Mountain Cup, saw RSL win 3-0. Goals from João Plata, Kurlak, and also Rusnak with a goal in the 92nd minute. The Rusnak goal will also be one that potentially is going to get a goal of the week. Well, actually, I still think the Lkae goal is going to get goal of the week, but this is an honorable mention, because the goal that Albert Rusnak scored, he basically just bend a free kick literally so good that the goalkeeper had absolutely no chance of saving that. He basically just take it around the wall and basically put it in toward the near post. I mean, I know some people say that the goalkeeper probably should have seen that and probably should have reacted, because there wasn't really a lot of power in that bend, but that bend was just so good that that is probably going to be an honorable mention in terms of goal of the week. But really, the story of this game was Tim Howard getting sent off, and this is probably the dumbest send-off that you will see a goalkeeper getting sent off this season, and probably in a while. I mean, Tim Howard literally he was running out of his box, and he was trying to face one-on-one with, I believe, João Plata, or no, not João Plata, Jefferson Savarino, that is, and he completely lost his bearings and didn't know where exactly he was on the pitch. He went outside the box, he saved that goal, and on a normal day, that's a pretty good kind of save, but the only problem is, Tim Howard was like at least 10 yards beyond his 18-yard box, and when you do that, it's an automatic sending off, and this is another evidence of why Tim Howard should just potentially hang the boots. I mean, he is just a complete shell of his former self, and I just think this is it for him. Like, he just cannot go on anymore. Like, that kind of mistake that a goalkeeper made, usually that is like a rookie kind of mistake, or just a really horrendous kind of second-string goalkeeper that made that mistake. But Tim Howard making that sort of mistake, that is just certainly unheard of. But the fact that you look at how Tim Howard is for the last couple of years, and how he has just continued to fall down a cliff in terms of his goalkeeping career, I just think that he's got to hang his boots anytime, probably this year. And for RSL, obviously it is a massive win for them, and they coming into this game, I think they lost 2 in a row or something like that. No, actually, RSL has been very kind of inconsistent lately, where there's on nights they look very good, and on nights that they do not look good at all. And in this game, they kind of look good at times and kind of didn't look good at times, and it's really hard to tell if they actually look very decent, because with the Tim Howard sending off, and they had like 70 minutes with with a man up. But still, it's an impressive victory. It's certainly a victory that RSL really needed. And for Colorado, well, your bad road form that you've been having for the last couple of seasons is just continue, and this is just another case of Colorado just cannot win against RSL whenever it's at Rio Tinto Stadium. But either way, just 3 more games to talk about. I don't know how long we're in. We're actually in the 30-minute mark, so yeah, just gonna make it quick in these last 3 games. This one, LA lose 2-0 to Atlanta. Goals from Joseph Martinez and Miguel Almiron. And this game didn't really quite live up to the hype, unfortunately, because Atlanta pretty much just dominate this whole game. LA was just they were really struggling in this one, and the defense was just all over the place in this one. Atlanta was just having so many chances to score in this game, and they probably could have won this by more than 2 goals. And for the Galaxy, even though they are currently second in the Western Conference, it is pretty clear that they don't look like they belong there. I mean, when you look at this team right now, and and also, by the way, Zlatan actually start for the second game in a row, but you wouldn't even notice that because he was very quiet in this game at all. And certainly that is a big credit to Atlanta's defense, shutting him down and not really letting him with any good spot. And I think a lot of teams are going to try to do that. They're going to try to focus their priority on Zlatan first, and then probably focus on other big players like the Dos Santos brother and Ola Kamara and Roman Alessandrini. But really, for the Galaxy, this team, the defense is just a mess in these last couple of games. The midfield is just not in sync at all. And going up front, and I heard that a couple of episodes ago on my match week preview, or actually not really a couple of episodes ago, I think this was last week, that somebody talked about how Ola Kamara is really struggling in a LA Galaxy shirt. And I'll tell you what, the more that I start looking at Ola Kamara's performance in these last couple of games, the more that I kind of had to agree that he is sort of struggling in a bit in a LA Galaxy shirt. I mean, I think he's only scored 1 goal this season, or I think 2. I think he scored 2 goals this season, and for a striker of his caliber, and the fact that, for what LA got him for, it is just not good enough right now. And especially the fact that now Jarzy Zardes is scoring goals like fun against Columbus. This just makes it even more painful in terms of that kind of trade that they had by sending Zardes to Columbus and getting Kamara from the Crew. But Atlanta right now is just a runaway train right now. They are just as hot as any team out there in the league. Maybe besides Orlando City, who is also on a pretty good run. But I think Atlanta, their run is kind of more impressive because they have not lost a single game since the first game of the season, and they have pretty much won every single game except for last week against NYCFC, where they drew 2-2 throughout this whole season. I mean, Atlanta is just looking very impressive right now. And with NYCFC, spoiler alert, kind of fall during this week, I think now they are in sort of the driving seats for that supporter show. Or actually, I think Sporting KC is in the driving seat. I think Sporting KC currently is tied with NYCFC, but I think they have a better goal differential than NYCFC. Or do they? Actually, I don't know. I gotta check the standing again. I might be wrong on that. Please do not quote me on that. I might be completely wrong on that stats. But either way, the last 2 games, Seattle versus Minnesota, where Seattle won 3-1. Goals from Swinson, Will Bruin, and Delim. Only goal for Minnesota was Christian Ramirez. And even though the scoreline says 3-1, it was not a 3-1 game. Seattle literally added a goal very late in this game. And in fact, this is actually wrong. Delim did not score in the 66th minute. I think he scored like somewhere in the 92nd minute. I'm just going to put 90 here. But yeah, Seattle didn't really look very comfortable in this game. There were times that Minnesota could have easily get the equalizer, and if it wasn't for the Loons, who are just right now struggling to score and also just struggling to defend, I think any other team besides Minnesota would have probably got a result against the Sounders. And this gives me back to a point where, the Sounders, even though they got their first win of the season, they still just look like a team that is not the same as they were a couple of years ago. And I know the fact that, this is the third year in a row where they kind of started like this, where they just get off to just such a horrible start. But as the announcer of ESPN kind of said, this is the worst start for the Sounders throughout their season, and that includes the previous two times when they started out very slow. And I just think that even though Sounders fan will say that, well, eventually we're just going to turn it around, are you going to turn it around? Because the way that I'm seeing right now with how you're playing, there is just no sign of me saying that they're going to turn it around. And then the fact that next week they have to play against LAFC, yeah, good luck of trying to turn this one around, because this team is just, they're still struggling in the league. And I still don't know how I'm putting them just so high up in the power rankings. And a couple of my viewers have already acknowledged me. They said that I put them way too high. And it's been hard to try to put them down because, with them winning this, and I kind of mention it a little bit later on in my power rankings video, it's hard to move them down because they just won this one. I can't just move them down like 5 spots because they won a game, because that's not how the power rankings works. So it is what it is. But the Sounders does get a win, and for Minnesota, yeah, it is just not good right now. And Minnesota is just, besides probably DC United, Philly, and even my Quakes team, they're probably the worst team in the league right now. And finally, Portland with a 3-0 win against NYCFC. NYCFC is now not unbeaten anymore. Or actually, that's not how you say it. But NYCFC is no longer unbeaten now. And surprisingly, Dallas is now the only team that is unbeaten, which is quite surprising because Dallas does not look like an unbeaten team, consider how this kind of season has gone. But NYCFC has lost 3-0 to Portland. Goals from Blanco, Ali, and also Mabella, I think that's how you pronounce it. And this game was a very, very strange game, because NYCFC had all the possession in this game. And I think when I meant strange, I meant that this was a game of example of how when you always have all the possession of the ball, it doesn't mean that you're going to automatically get a win. And, in this game, NYCFC had 75% of the possession. Portland only had 25% of the possession, but they were very decent on the transition. And, there was also a couple of bad mistakes by NYCFC. I think this goal by Sebastian Blanco, he basically just hit that one up in the air and up for grabs. And I don't know how in the world did Sean Johnson did not save that. Although I think the reason why he didn't save that is that he had a little bit of a miscommunication with one of his NYCFC defender. And yeah, that is just a very bad goal to concede. And the Audi goal, nobody unmarked Fernando Audi in that kind of area where he basically just tapped it in. That obviously is unacceptable in terms of the defense. And then eventually they did score their first set piece goal of the season with Mabala scoring with a header. But overall, NYCFC, you know, with all the possession in this game and with just at time looked like the better team in this game, they just could not score a goal. And it's quite impressive that they cannot break through against one of the worst defense in the league. Like, I don't know how Portland was able to survive this game and get all 3 points and even get a clean sheet against one of the hottest attacking team in the league. So yeah, that is certainly this was certainly a very kind of interesting game. I wouldn't say this is kind of a very big upset considering the fact that Portland is just very good at home, and it's always hard to play at Providence Park. Like, I think besides Mercedes-Benz Stadium at Atlanta, this is probably the hardest place to play because it is just the atmosphere in this stadium is just really, really good. It's a hostile environment, and unfortunately for NYCFC, they couldn't do it for the second year in a row heading into a hostile environment and get the job done. Although I wouldn't worry that much that NYCFC has lost this one. I think, you know, it was just one of these days where they just cannot break through that Portland Timbers defense. And, you know, also in this game for NYCFC, I also heard that David Villa actually got injured in this game, and I'm pretty sure a lot of NYCFC fan is probably praying that he doesn't get injured and be out for a long amount of time that he was out throughout this season. Remember, he was out with a month for that ankle injury that he suffered, I think during the second game of the season. But yeah, there is pretty much all my review of match week number 8. Almost said match week number 7, but match week number 8 done and dusted. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button, and yeah, I will see you guys next time.